Hello and welcome to Talk of the Town. I'm your host, Kathy Healey. On today's show, we're going to introduce you and get to know two new faces at Wakefield Memorial High School. They are the new varsity football coach, John Rafferty, and the new principal of Wakefield Memorial High School, Amy McLeod. I also have a new co-host on today's show, Emmy Macri, who is a math teacher at Wakefield Memorial High School. Welcome, Emmy, to the show, and welcome,
Thank you.
John.
Thank you for having me be here.
Thank you for being on the show.
Pleasure.
So starting with John, I just want to talk about our Wakefield connection to start with. So you grew up across the street from my grandfather and grandmother.
I did?
In Wakefield.
Yes.
Yes. So and my grandfather was a football coach at Wakefield High from 1928 to 1944, and I know you knew him. Not then, but somewhere after that.
No, I do remember your grandfather, okay, and living, we all grew up on Newell Road, and they lived right across the street. And I was small at the time, but as I was saying, I remember your grandfather very, very well and stuff. He was a great guy. He was always out working in his yard, and you know, kids running around the neighborhood, okay. And seemed like I was always running through his yard, okay, and he was always good to me. He never.
Did he ever give you any football points?
At the time, no. He just said, make sure you stay out of his rose bushes, and stop ruining the grass. But no, he was good. He was a great guy.
So tell us about your years at Wakefield High.
Yes, Wakefield High. To be honest with you, okay, it was a great experience, teenage years or whatever the case may be, growing up, all right, but a lot of fond memories of it. I remember we had a large class, and it was a great class. I mean, it was the spirit of Wakefield High, okay, it was huge.
You were the football captain?
Football captain. We had the good fortune, okay, being very successful our senior year, won the championship, and the town support was just unbelievable.
Did you play Melrose back then, your Thanksgiving, or was it Gloucester?
Oh, absolutely. No.
Oh, okay.
It was definitely Melrose and stuff. And that, of course, okay, that was a huge victory, okay, winning on Thanksgiving Day. That was great.
Oh, that's great.
And really kind of capped it off for us. It was good.
Oh, that's terrific. Now, what position did you play on the field?
I was a running back, and I was a defensive back on defense.
Oh, wow.
So.
Not that I know what either of those mean, but.
No, it was. I was busy. I was busy.
That's terrific.
And stuff, and it was just a great experience. Great teammates, and we had a tremendous gathering and following wherever we went. And the stands were always full, okay, regardless of the fact that we were away or not. So it was great.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah, it was huge. It was really good. Great memory.
So now, after high school, where did you go to college?
So after high school, I went to Syracuse University and graduated from there. And
now, did you play football there as well?
I played football there as well. I was captain my senior year, and that was a tremendous experience. We were it was a team with the level we were on and whatnot. We played across the country in a lot of different places, and it was quite an experience.
Now, did you, besides playing football, what was your major in college, and did you do any other extracurricular activities? Did you have time for them?
Well, no, I didn't. Quite honestly, okay. School was a large part of it, of course, all right, and then the other part of it on that level is that football was a full-time situation for me, and but it was great. Enjoyed it. I was a social work major.
Oh wow!
I graduated with a degree in social work.
Wow!
And it was good. It was very good.
So did you become a social worker, or?
To a point, yes. I got out and I graduated from Syracuse, and probably in that year subsequently after that, I was hired by Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission, and I was working for them as a rehabilitation counselor, and I did that with the state for approximately 18 months. I then moved on from there, okay, and I was up at Lawrence General Hospital. And it was there at Lawrence General Hospital, okay, continuing to work as a rehabilitation counselor, but it was also strongly suggested that I get my master's. So and then at the same time, entered the master's program at Northeastern University, and received a degree there in master's education rehabilitation counseling.
Oh, that's terrific.
And so that's when you became a teacher?
Well,
after you got your master's degree?
And then I continued to work as a rehabilitation counselor, for a number of years, and the vocational course took a drastic change for me. I was very much a person, that enjoyed working outdoors, quite honestly, and then next thing you know, I found myself in the construction field, for a number of years, working for others. I worked for the Boston and Maine Railroad for a number of years, and then I finally wrapped up, and I was a small contractor for myself.
Oh, okay.
And when was it that you decided you'd go into the teaching field?
Well, I never really did, and I never made it into the teaching field. At one time I did aspire. I was trying to become a guidance counselor.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
And it was just it just didn't work out for me. Wasn't able to get a job in that, and subsequently, in my search for that is that I was led to a position with the Middlesex Sheriff's Department.
Oh, okay.
And I worked there, as what they call a caseworker.
Okay.
And there for 25 years.
For Peter Katusian? Is that?
Yes, he's the current sheriff.
He's been on the Talk of the Town.
Oh,
well, there you
Episode
go.
5, I think,
Yep.
or 6.
Yeah.
I forget.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah. So I wrapped up there, and.
So you were a coach at a different high school before you became?
I did.
Okay.
I've been coaching for a long time. I started coaching in 1987, and my first coaching assignment, if you will, was at Reading High School.
Oh, home of the Rockets.
The home
we
of
don't
the
really
Rockets.
like the Rockets here.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
I know. That was a
Even
long
though-
time ago.
Even though
I'm a
you're from
Rocket.
Reading,
I'm a Rocket.
and you're from Reading,
Yes.
and I may or may not live in Reading.
My
I
kids
don't like to say that
kids
too
were
loud.
Rockets, so to speak. So I was there for 3 years.
Okay.
Then I left there and actually came here to Wakefield for 2.
Oh, yeah.
That was 90 and 91, and I was here for 2 years.
Oh.
And then that ended, and I left, and I went to the arch rival down on the other side of town, and dear old
Melrose?
Melrose.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah,
Jeez,
yeah.
we were just starting to like you.
I know.
Oh.
Yes. Well, you never know where you're going to end up
Ah,
sometimes.
yeah.
But I was there for quite a while. I was there for 9 years.
That's okay. We won't hold that against you.
Yeah.
So what's the hardest part of being a coach?
The hardest part of being a coach, I'll be honest with you, I mean, it's the hard part. I would say probably the hard part, is the emotional part. And that is probably the emotional aspect of dealing with, team isn't being very successful, and then dealing with defeat and understanding what that's all about, and having the kids understand what that's all about, and collecting ourselves and getting ourselves back on track. Sport of football, it's a little different in the regards that you only have one game a week. So what you do is you put in a tremendous amount of hours, time, and effort. Kids do preparing for that one game, and if you tend to come out on the short end of it, it's hard. It's not immediate gratification there. So it's you got to regroup, you got to rally on that, learn from what your mistakes were, and move on.
So what's your favorite part of being a coach?
My favorite part, to be honest with you, is I just like to teach it. Coach it, if you will, but you teach it. Teaching concepts and teaching techniques, and probably seeing them eventually get it. It's kind of like
It's a great feeling, isn't it?
It's a great feeling to see them get it, and all of a sudden then successful at it, and it can be something small. It's just a particular technique that they finally master, and they get it, and it's huge. It feels good.
And as a coach, what's the most important characteristic you want your players to have both on and off the field?
I would say if they have that characteristic, of respectfulness. I think it's really important. Respect for others, whoever that may be, teammates, other classmates, obviously teachers, authority figures, okay, and ultimately respect for themselves. I just think it's really huge, all right, and it shows. And I think that goes a long way.
Now, when you were growing up, who was your biggest influence in your life and why?
Growing up, I probably would have, a figure that stood out for me, particularly in high school. All right, was one of my coaches, Bob Bezeka.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. There was no doubt about it. He was just strong, knowledgeable man that we all just really looked up to.
Yeah.
And he was great. He really was. You learned the right and what was wrong, and he guided you along, and he was really good. Enjoyed. He was great.
Great guy.
Yeah, he was.
Are fewer kids playing football now because of the concussions, do you find?
I think there's an element of that, unfortunately, okay, concussions in football, concussions can occur in all walks of life,
right.
Not just sports, okay, any activities and stuff. I'm honest with you, okay, I think football, in a way, it gets sensationalized a little bit because it's football, and as a result, okay, and it's put out there, people would think, well, the only place you can get a concussion is if you play football, and that's kind of, it's a little bit of a, a hard situation to deal with there. But that being the case, so there is some, I would say, but by and large, I think there's less now, but I think it depends on the situation too.
Yeah. And have you ever had a girl play football on one of your teams?
Yes.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
I did. No, it was. I was up at North Andover. I was there for 14 years, and I was a head coach up there. And I did have somebody come out one year, okay, female, and so no problem.
Yeah.
Have at it, and we were all treated the same, okay.
Oh, that's
and
good.
Had that respect for her.
Yep.
And
what do you do for fun? What are your hobbies or?
Hobbies, Well, there's probably two things that envelop my whole life, okay, and that is first and foremost is, it's my family, no doubt about that. My wife and my two kids, and probably I've been spending my whole time, other than football, just doing that and chasing after them. They were athletes in high school and athletes in college and stuff, so there was a lot of travel in that sort of situation, watching them, okay, and that's been a big part of my life, that. And the other half is, it's football, it is. It's my thing.
You love Tom Brady?
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Stupid question.
No, he's, absolutely, absolutely, I like the way he handles himself.
Is there anything else you want the viewers to know about you?
No, I'm kind of an open book. In that regard. Not that I'm going to sit down and tell you about myself, all right, but, what you see, what you get, I'm not complicated, I'm pretty simple, all right, pretty straightforward, and what you see is what you get, so to speak.
That's great. Well, I want to thank you for being on the show.
Sure.
I really appreciate you. I know you're a busy guy, especially this time of year.
Yeah.
So we at Talk of the Town really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
And we're going to take a break right now and come back with the new principal of Wakefield Memorial High School, Amy McLeod. And welcome back to Talk of the Town. With us now is the new principal of Wakefield Memorial High School, Amy McLeod. Thank you for joining us, Amy.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's great to see you. And I just want to know, the townspeople want to know and the viewers want to know a little bit about your background and where you grew up and that sort of thing. So what high school did you attend?
So I grew up in Lawrence,
Okay.
and I grew up in Lawrence as the youngest of 5 children. My parents moved to North Andover while I was in high school. So I went to North Andover High School, All my brothers and sisters had graduated. My father had a medical thing, so we had to leave Lawrence. Like we had to sell our house and move.
Wow.
So went to a new town, new school, and it was a big change for me, right? Going from a city to North Andover High School.
Right.
And my whole family was born and raised in Lawrence, so it was a big change for me.
Wow.
But I had a great experience at North Andover High School.
Good. What did you do for extracurricular?
I was really engaged in high school. I really loved high school, which is maybe why I gravitated toward becoming a high school teacher and then a high school principal. But I was a 3-season athlete. Played field hockey, basketball. You can tell from the height, I know. And I also did I did softball for a little while, then track in the spring.
No tennis?
No tennis, I'm sorry.
okay.
I know. It was actually, I don't know how to play tennis, so maybe you could give me some lessons because it's something that I'd really love to learn. And then I also did a lot of student leadership, was involved in different clubs and organizations, student council, things like that.
Wow,
So
impressive.
Yeah, I had a really, I had a great set of teachers. My coaches had a huge influence on me in my life, and I think probably impacted me to become, sort of the person out in the world that I would point to my coaches as probably being my single biggest influence.
Wow. That's interesting.
I had amazing coaches. So.
Oh, terrific.
So now, where did you go to college?
I went to Villanova for my undergraduate, which was a terrific opportunity. First in my family to go away to college. So it was. I moved far away from my family, right? My brothers and sisters all lived very close to home. I was the first to go to a 4-year college. I was the first to live away from home, and it was an awesome experience. Big athletic school, big rah-rah sort of student. Right?
Did you play sports while you were there?
So I didn't. I certainly was not a Division I basketball player, right? So no. I did actually though have a lot of friends who were involved in athletics, so I was able to sort of do some stuff with practice teams and work around teams, and then I did a lot of intramurals. But so I really had a terrific experience there, and I'm still a lifelong Villanova fan. So
that's terrific.
So while you were there, did you intend to become a teacher when you were at Villanova, or did it change while you were there?
No, it's interesting when I think about my trajectory and how did I become a teacher. I think that I went to school thinking I was going to go to law school. I wanted to be a lawyer. And then I had a few opportunities, different teaching type of opportunities. I did some tutoring. I actually I was a tutor for some of the basketball players while I was there, which was an interesting, I'll just leave it at that. It was interesting. And I also did, I was able to be a TA my senior year for a professor. So I did some college level teaching with her. And I also did some volunteer tutoring for children in Philadelphia. So we would kind of take buses down to Philadelphia to schools. So I kind of got engaged in schools without meaning to get engaged in schools, right?
Yeah.
And sort of, I think that work in Philadelphia really showed me the power of urban education and kind of lit a fire for me. And then I started thinking maybe I don't want to go to law school. So then started thinking about teaching. So.
And what was your first job out of college?
Yeah, so I ended up being, I did a volunteer teaching corps. So,
like AmeriCorps on the idea of that?
On the idea of AmeriCorps, yeah. So it was a smaller organization based out of Philadelphia, and it worked with the archdiocese of Philadelphia for schools in and around Philadelphia. So they provided us with housing and food, and basically we got a stipend to work in schools, for the parochial schools for the year. Wow. So I did 1 year doing that. I taught 2nd grade.
Oh, geez.
At St. Therese of the Child Jesus in North Philadelphia, and what that taught me was that I did not want to be a 2nd grade teacher. The one thing I learned from it was like, teaching is great, and I enjoy being in schools, but I do not want teachers who teach elementary age children really have a gift that I do not have. So
when was it that you decided to make the transition to the upper grade of the high school?
Yeah, it took a couple years. So I did that, and then I went out to Colorado. I was a ski instructor for a year.
Oh,
out
ski instructor.
I was a ski instructor. Yeah. So I taught. So I was always teaching though. So I taught children how to ski.
Oh.
Right? So I would spend the whole day with them from the time their parents dropped them off till like 4 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
And I would ski with them. I would feed them. We played games with them. So I was kind of teaching throughout the day, right? So I did that. And then when I came back from Colorado, I worked at Merrimack College as a resident assistant.
Where I went to school.
Yeah. So I was working with high school kids, developing college kids, developing programming for them while I thought about maybe applying to grad school.
Oh, wow.
And then it was at that point that I was like, I think high school. So I applied. I went to Columbia in New York City for teaching because I knew I wanted the urban piece. I missed the urban piece. I knew I wanted to go back to that.
Do you think
And
that had
was
to
my
do with you
trajectory.
growing up in Lawrence?
I think so, yeah, I really do. I think that, sort of that idea of moving to North Andover and having opportunities that my brothers and sisters didn't have and that my parents didn't have, and having coaches who sort of took care of me and recognized things in me that other people didn't, right, and sort of really taught me to believe in myself and to be somebody, right, that sense of helping you out that way. And then having that echoed when I was working with kids in Philly, and then that volunteer year, even though it nearly, I got through it is all I'm going to say about it. But really that idea of, giving back to a community. And so I think that was kind of my trajectory. And I stayed in urban education right up until being here in Wakefield.
Wow.
So this is a very new experience for me.
Now, what was the toughest part about being a teacher for you?
I think that, I don't, so many things, right? I think teaching has become such a challenge in terms of meeting the needs of all students. We know that students are coming to us with more diverse needs than ever before. And that stems from everything around needs around learning styles, needs based on gender, race, socioeconomics, gender based on social, emotional, behavioral, and needing to meet all that in a class. Right. And you have 50 minutes on a good day, you have an hour and something minutes, right? And I think, and that's our through line at the high school right now. And that really speaks from my heart of knowing that is the hardest thing that we do. Right. And I think we need to sort of take that on as our primary challenge all the time.
Right.
I mean, the good part of that is it's getting to know your kids and making those relationships. And that's why you're in it, right? You're not in it necessarily, even though you love your content. I know you love math.
I do. I love math.
I know. But it's that guidance piece, right? That counseling piece of knowing kids, right? So we're all doing those pieces together.
And really caring about the kids. I mean, you can't be in this field if you don't care and love the kids like they're your own.
Right.
I mean,
no,
basically
it's too hard of a job to not be there because you care and love the kids.
Now, would you say that's the most important quality a teacher should have if they're going into the field? For the viewers watching that say, oh, I might want to be a teacher, and what's the most important quality, would you think, a teacher
I think that,
has?
and I think empathy, right? And I think that becoming a parent has made me a different educator. I look at kids in a different way because I didn't know that before. But I think as I've gone through my career and I've known more kids and I've made connections with more kids, just empathizing with what kids bring to us and their life experiences that they're going through and sort of understanding that. And that takes patience. So I think another quality you need to have is, teachers we want things done, we want things fixed, we want, right? We want the lessons taught, the units, the move on, and we have to have patience. So.
When did you decide that you wanted, because being a teacher is in the classroom, when did you make that shift to going into the administration side? Or what caused you to go into the administration?
Yeah, I think when I was working in New York City, I was working at a alternative public high school on the Upper West Side. And one of the unique aspects of that school was that we had teachers involved. It was a school by committee. We had co-directors, a non-traditional kind of structure. And so teacher committees were leading all sorts of initiatives at the school. So I got involved in the curriculum and instruction committee. I ended up leading that after a couple of years. And I saw sort of the bigger umbrella of moving teachers along trajectories of teaching and learning, what that can do. And I found it fascinating, and that I think just sort of got me interested in going down that road. And at that point I went back to school and worked on my doctorate, which I never finished, while I was continuing to teach. And I know, well, that's another show for another day. But anyway, so that's kind of how it evolved. Yeah.
And what are the biggest challenges you're finding at Wakefield Memorial High School? I do see some of them because I work there with you, but what would you say would be the biggest challenge?
just think that in the first year, it's a learning curve, right? I mean, everything that I'm doing every day essentially is new.
Yeah.
New people, new programs, new understandings, new protocols, new student handbook, I mean, everything is new.
Yeah.
So that, you know, one of my former heads of schools used to use this term, like riding the bicycle while we're changing the tire. And that's what urban education is all the time.
Yes.
By the way, you're always riding the bicycle and changing the tire. We're not doing that at Wakefield, right? Because we have some strong protocols and programs and people in place, but I don't know any of them. So I'm still riding the bicycle and changing the tire. Next year I won't be, right? So once I have 1 year through, my learning curve will flatten out and it'll be familiar. So I think that's the hardest part, is doing the job while you're learning the job.
Yes.
And that's true in any person taking a new position in a new district or a new company. So I don't think my challenge is unique necessarily.
Right.
Have you found it, it's always a challenge when you're a teacher and you're a parent as well. What do your children think of becoming the principal? Has there been a mood shift at home, or?
So I have 3 children. They are 14. My daughter is a freshman in high school.
Wow.
I have an 11-year-old who's a 6th grader in middle school. And then I have a 4th grader who's still in elementary school.
Wow.
My 2 boys are the younger. And the mood shift at home has been significant.
Really?
I mean, it's significant. You know, they have gone through transitions this year into new schools.
Right.
I have gone through a transition into a new school.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of transitions happening in my house. And
always
that,
A lot of slamming doors and
yes,
had a feeling.
that, and you know, a lot of tears and a lot of negotiating space and figuring out what this means. And I have to say that, you know, my boys, especially because they're a little bit younger, have been to games with me. They've come to a couple of the
good.
band competitions with
nice.
me.
Good.
You know, I try to have and I said this all through my interview process, and I hope it's holding true. You know, I don't live in this community, but this community is incredibly important to me because
Right.
it's part of my life, right?
Yes.
And so for me, having my children come with me and experiencing these things with me have been really important. And they're letting go of where I was. They were very attached to where I had worked for 7 years.
Yeah.
You know, so
that's tough.
yeah, so it's been a
Yeah.
big transition, but so far so good.
Good.
We're getting through it.
Good.
It's getting better every week. Every week, like the routines are coming together, and
Because being a principal is very time consuming.
yeah, as is being a mom.
Yep,
It is.
Right,
exactly.
so
Yes,
so-
2 full time.
Yeah, so I mean, but yeah, being a principal is very time consuming in a different way. I feel like I don't turn off as easily, and so I'm working on that, figuring out times. I know the guidance department is always talking to me about self-care.
Self-care.
And it's
Yes.
true,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
I'm only 6 weeks into the school year, so I'm not really a master at self-care yet, but I am trying to figure out one of those windows where I need to take a break and turn it off and stop checking my email and just letting it go.
Yes.
Speaking of that, what do you do for fun and hobbies? Let's hear that. When you have a
Sleep.
few
When you have
minutes.
that 1 second of time to think.
Yeah, no, you know, I love to read. And I can tell when I'm getting too stressed where I'm not reading. I'm not reading currently, so I've got to get back to
okay.
reading, right? That's a stress reliever for
Self-care,
me.
yep.
Yeah, my family is very much, we're sort of hiking outdoor folks.
Oh,
So
good.
like the perfect Sunday my kids talk about is we go for a hike. We find some sort of like town in the middle of nowhere, and we have brunch at, my daughter will call it at like a crunchy place. So that's what they call my ideal Sunday. So that's sort of what
that's
we like to do
terrific.
together. Yeah.
That's terrific.
And right now, what we do together is I mostly chase them to fields and activities. So you know, I spend a lot of time doing that, watching them be successful, which is great, and enjoying. So.
And what else would you like the viewers to know about you or your role as principal of Wakefield High?
That's a tough question. I'm just thrilled to be here. So far, it's been terrific. I think that making relationships and connections with so many new people has been really exciting and fun and illuminating, right? And I will say especially the student body. You know, again, we talked about this. I got into this for the kids, right? It's when you meet people and they're like, "Oh, you're a high school principal? Well, why would you ever do that?" And you know, and I'm like, "It's fantastic.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a
You know,
great job.
I love teenagers.
Yes.
I think they're funny and quirky and sarcastic sometimes, and sometimes they're a little edgy, and sometimes they're a little cranky. But they're also very talented, and they're passionate, and they're like untapped potential.
Yes.
Right. And so I think that just being here and feeling so welcomed in the community. So I'd like
Yeah.
to say thank you for everyone to helping me feel so welcome in this community. It's been great. So I'm just
Good.
thrilled to be here,
Good.
and I look forward to a long career here. So
Good. Well, I think Wakefield High is very lucky to have you.
Thank you.
We really welcome you. And I want to thank you again for being on the show. I
You're
know you're a
welcome.
very busy person.
No,
So
this-
we at
this has
Talk of the
been fun.
Town are really thankful for you for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for inviting
you.
me.
And
This has been
thank
really
you.
fun.
Oh.
Thanks.
Thank you, Emmy, for being a co-host.
No problem.
And thank you for the viewers for watching Talk of the Town. And we'll see you next time.